of the footage you will see was shot by WGAL news crews. The original music was composed by then program manager Nelson Sears and recorded by the Oak Ridge Boys. Here is the Ballad of Agnes.
12 to 15 hours yet before we reach the peak. Hopefully. We have about 500 have been evacuated, and there are still residents who refuse to leave.
They are to be given an armband, civil defense armband, to be worn.
This is the worst I've ever seen in a downtown, type area. I've been in them along the coast where towns were wiped out, but you don't see anything when you get going. But to actually see it flowing in and out of three-story buildings is quite an experience.
What are you going to do from this point, Mike? What do you do now?
I don't know. I'm down with my sister down in Breslin. So other than that, just one of them things.
The moments wash over me, tear at my soul. Please set me free.
And the river just kept coming up. And I mean, we went down and we started to take the washer and the dryer, and we have a boat. We put it in the boat in the cellar. But all the children's toys and clothes and Christmas stuff, it's all in the cellar.
Agnes was a killer. She came up from the south. Vaporized the Atlantic and washed the cities out. What a song, what a cry, as the waters rose in the starlight. Rich and poor, city and town, huddled in fright as the rain came down. Agnes was a storm. Wings on my soul, fly me away from this veil of tears I find here today.
Veil of tears indeed. Tropical Storm Agnes caused Pennsylvania's worst natural disaster of modern times. The statistics are awesome. 18.55 inches of rain during June 1972 was the greatest monthly amount ever recorded in Harrisburg. 12.55 inches of rainfall on June 21st and 22nd was the most ever recorded in a 24-hour period. The heaviest rain occurred as Agnes moved northward along the Virginia and New Jersey coasts. It then made a slow loop over Pennsylvania. The torrential downpour followed a week of persistent shower activity. Thus, the ground was saturated early in the storm.
10-4.
Trouble began to develop as small streams broke over their banks with flash floods. The WGAL TV news department began to respond to reports of minor flooding, high water trouble spots. The photographers soon reported that this was more than just the usual water in the basement type flooding. Automobiles were being abandoned on some streets, and the rain continued to fall. At Maple Grove, just west of Lancaster, the little Conestoga Creek jumped out of its havoc on a fruit market and the Maple Grove swimming pool. Homes located near the stream were among the first to feel the fury of the storm. A quarter-mile downstream, the water rose above the roadway of an iron bridge and washed away Man's Mill covered bridge. Several covered wooden bridges in the area became casualties of the storm. Meanwhile, to the east and southeast of Lancaster, the Conestoga Creek demonstrated the massive force of water gone wild. The outside was buffeted by the water pressure. Part of the span broke its foundation fittings and crashed against the nearby railroad bridge. A sense of disaster descended upon the Susquehanna River watershed area.
Requests for emergency announcements were received at WGAL TV and telecast as soon as possible. There were announcements telling workers about the status of their work shift. Churches announced that they would be open to help people in trouble. Evacuation centers were set up in schools and firehouses. Emergencies were declared on a county-by-county basis. Numerous calls were being received from people worried about loved ones and friends in the WGAL TV viewing area and put on the air as soon as possible.
Feeder streams of the Susquehanna River system were the first to rise and first to recede. At Conestoga Gardens, State Police Trooper Edwin Grazer riot duty near Norristown to find water above the second floor of his home. As the water receded, the terrible human suffering and deprivation began to be felt.
Anything in there is totally destroyed. This is only the surface. You have to see the backside downstairs, the basement. The plaster's coming off the ceilings down. Yeah, honey.
The greater York area felt the fury of Tropical Storm Agnes on Wednesday, June.
Traffic on Route 30 East near the Route 83 overpass was hampered by the rising waters. By Thursday morning, Agnes had turned York into a disaster area. The city was low on drinking water. More than 5,000 phone lines were down. 15 important roads and numerous bridges were underwater or washed out. By Thursday evening, June 22nd, 17 inches of rain had fallen at the York Water Company. Homes, businesses, and streets were partially or completely flooded. Pumping water out of basements became the big task of the day. In southern York County, sections of Glen Rock were underwater. 2 days later, the waters receded, and the town began drying out. Glen Rock is a small town. The population is 1,700. The damage total of $1 million included the destruction of 56 homes, 31 businesses, a church, post office, and 35 automobiles.
On the morning of June 22nd, the city of Lebanon began the long ordeal of coping with a full range of disaster experiences. Impassable roads, flooded homes, rescue efforts, and emergency shelters were the order of the day. Lebanon joined the long list of Pennsylvania cities trying to maintain order amid chaos. In Berks County, the Schuylkill River rose above flood stage. Birdsboro sustained heavy damage. In Reading, the southwest section along the Schuylkill River and the 6th Ward area north of Penn Street were the hardest hit. Other residential and industrial neighborhoods were damaged. Pure water for drinking and other needs was in short supply. The acute problem caused water to be rationed for the duration of the emergency in the city of Reading.
The entire river was a wild water scene. From New York State through Wilkes-Barre on the North Branch and Lock Haven and other towns on the West Branch, the waters thundered down the main stem past Harrisburg. Dick Hawksworth talked to Harrisburg's mayor, Harold Swenson, at the Walnut Street Bridge.
Mayor Swenson, at this time, what is the situation in Harrisburg?
Well, the situation is that we are at a record height. We're now 32 feet right here. This is 2 foot over the all-time high. And we have 3 foot to go in the next 12 hours of an upward trend rise in the river until we reach what is predicted to be the crest of 35 feet.
Mrs. of 2319 Penn Street, Harrisburg, talks about her family's problems.
And then about 9:30, my husband said, take the children, we have 3 children, take them out to their mother, to his mother and father. So I put him in the car at the house. And we took him out home, and I came back uptown with his brother to try to salvage something, but the only way we could get up is 3rd Street, because Emerald and Seneca were flooded by then, and Green. So we waded through water on Green Street in back of our house on the 2300 block and came in the back way. By then, it was about the 4th step up from the cellar. And then the civil defense and the police came by with speakers and said, everybody evacuate.
When was the last time you saw your house?
The last time I seen it was about 20 after 11, Thursday night, because we stayed to the very last.
The stark terror and heartbreak involved in the loss of home and possessions shows in the remarks made by Mike Pinko of 3947 6th Street, Harrisburg.
Yesterday we got out when the water was just up over the sidewalk, and I had hoped that it wouldn't come up that far, but it looked like it just came up.
Now, is your home a total loss?
Well, that I don't know. I mean, there's no water up on the floor, but the one side of the whole wall just caved in. So the basement's all full, and with that one side of the wall caved in, and it's unsafe to even bother go in now until everything gets down.
This isn't the first time a home has been damaged, has it?
I guess I'm par for the course. It burned out and rained out. What are you going to do? That's all.
And John Scott took to the air as soon as the ceiling lifted high enough to permit visual flight. Widespread upriver flooding was at a peak.
To communities north of Harrisburg, floods are somewhat common. However, Agnes brought the worst floods in their history. 30% of the Selinsgrove community was underwater. The Isle of Kew was inundated. A store on the island was destroyed. At the town of Shamokin Dam, the steam-powered generating plant was able to operate through the flood period. On the island between Sunbury and Northumberland, a multi-million-dollar arena suffered heavy damage. The borough of Danville received a two-pronged attack from the water. The first onslaught came from the Mahoning Creek to the center of the town, and then the river overflowed its banks to cover an estimated 40% of that town. Almost 4 feet of water in the Danville High School. In spite of the heavy damage, the school was able to open for the fall term, and all industries in Danville were back in operation before the year ended. Upriver at Bloomsburg, Fishing Creek and the Susquehanna combined to cover about 1/4 of the city with mud-laden water. The Bloomsburg Airport was underwater. The airport is back in operation. Water was near the roof of the grandstand at the fairgrounds and almost covered the livestock barns. McGee Carpet Mills had water up in the buildings and in the plant machinery. Less than 2 months after the waters receded, the carpet mill was back in full operation. The fairgrounds are in condition for regular activities. The communities on the west branch of the Susquehanna were not spared. Milton was especially hard hit by the flood. Virtually all business activity in the town was in the path of the flood waters. 75% of Milton experienced high water. Business and industrial interests have made a remarkable recovery. 80% of downtown Lewisburg was flooded. Bull Run Creek joined forces with the river and swirled mud and water through the town. At Sunbury, the much-heralded, maligned river wall is now appreciated by most residents. The river crested at 34.2 feet. The top of the wall is just a little higher than that. A major flood was averted. Some flooding did occur because of Shamokin Creek, known by some as Black Creek.
The floods of Agnes will be long remembered in the upriver towns of the Susquehanna Basin. In times of stress, rumor reaches out to confuse and frighten the general population. Wild rumors began to spread as Storm Agnes passed over the Channel 8 area. One of the most persistent rumors concerned the Susquehanna River power dams. They were rumored to be broken or about to give way. Residents of the upper Chesapeake Bay area scurried to high ground as stories spread about Conowingo Dam's dangerous condition. WGAL TV put those rumors to rest by checking with officials on the scene and by showing aerial footage of the dams. Identification of familiar landmarks became a problem as the water rose to obliterate the normal shorelines. The bridges and their approaches at Harrisburg are typical examples of water changes the appearance of topographic features and man-made structures. The story of the flood is more than just spectacular scenes of nature gone wild. It's water in the basement, mud in awful amounts, and the hopeless feeling that all is lost.
Well, take, for example, we just purchased and filled our freezer. Steaks and unbelievable, believe it or not, my wife just went out and for this evening's dinner we were going to have lobster. And, well, they're back in the water again.
On the terrible day of the flood, Trooper Edwin Gracer of the Pennsylvania State Police said, "When the future looks bleak, love is vital to the human spirit."
Well, how do you say it? I guess we have problems with drugs and problems with racial problems, but if this is ever can do, we sure as the devil can solve the drugs and just everything else if we all stuck together.
You've had a lot of help from your neighbors, Ed.
More than that could be expected for anybody to deprive their own families to come out and help others. It's just sensational, that's all.
Love is a word of many meanings. The antonym of hate, a synonym for affection. There's mother love and brother love and the love of a guy for a gal. But there's a love that beats them all, a love beyond recall, the love of man for mankind. In times of trouble, in times of war, help your fellow man, please don't go away when he needs you. Lending hand. mother love and brother love and the love of a gal. But there's a love that beats them all, a love beyond recall, the love of man for mankind. In times of trouble, in times of woe, help your fellow man, please don't go away when he needs you. Lend a helping hand.
After the initial rescue and cleanup operations, the long road to recovery loomed ahead. Governor Milton J. Schaap talked about the strength of Pennsylvania's citizenry.
I think it's safe to say that 76, which would be the 200th anniversary of this nation, when we hope to have tens of millions of people coming through Pennsylvania, we'll be able to show the world that this generation of Americans are just as dedicated and have done just as good a job of rebuilding their nation as did our forefathers in 1776.
Bridge and road repair work began. In some instances, temporary bridges were erected. The washed-out section of the iron bridge at Ingleside, south of Lancaster, was replaced with a temporary span and in operation within a short time.
In York County, the town of Glen Rock, which was heavily damaged, has made great strides on the road to recovery. The OK Store is doing business after the shambles created by the bridge over the creek at the lumber company has been put back on its abutments. The lumber is neatly stacked, and the flood is a memory. In down to the low-lying areas along the Cadorce Creek took high water and have since been cleaned up.
Many flood victims were housed in temporary trailer homes situated on their own lots or in trailer parks, such as the one on the grounds of the Farm Show complex in Harrisburg. 11 months after the flood, we returned to 2319 Penn Street in Harrisburg and talked to Mrs. Albert Schuler.
At first, we thought we wouldn't come back home. But then when we came home that Sunday night, and we waited in, my husband had hip boots, and I was in my... And when we just saw that it was a mess, sure. I mean, all the homes were a mess. But then after we saw it, and we figured, well, if the foundation was still good, it was our home. And it was our home for 7 years, and the kids, so we were coming home.
Your family's made a remarkable recovery from the flood. Do you ever think back to those days in June of 1972?
Yes, and you know why we think back to those days? Because when I go to get something that I remember I had, and it's not there, and then right away, and the kids, they go to the basement to retrieve something, you know, maybe for years and years it was down there, and it's not there. And not only that, those trailers will leave an impression on me the rest of my life. They were good homes, you know what I mean, for emergency. But if we had to do it again, me, myself, I would stay with the house if I knew that it wouldn't hit the second floor.
It's been a year now since those days of the floodwaters of June of 72. Do you, when we have a few days of rain, do you get a little edgy or nervous?
Very. But yet, we have flood insurance, but I don't care. I still do.
You do have flood insurance now?
Yeah, now we do. We went and took it out right away. Maybe it was a dumb thing like, you know, the horse runs away and then shut the barn door, but we're going to be prepared the next time. And when it does rain, like the other night when it hailed and, you know, all these weeks raining off and on like it did before, we walk down to the river and we look at that river. And the first sign, there's not going to be no, you know, late time. We're going to be ready. But we look back, all of us do, especially the kids, like I said. But kids are young. Then we're not old, but, you know, to come back and rebuild, it's going to be hard. Do it again. Because I don't think we'll come back.
Do you think that what has happened, the experience, has brought your family closer together?
It has. It's made me real proud of my husband, like I said before. And I can smile and really say I bring everybody in this house, and I rave and I brag about what he done. Because before I knew he could pound a nail, but I never knew he could put our home back together and make it livable.
Mike Pinko of 3947 6th Street, Harrisburg, talks about his recovery from the disaster.
I had a trailer out in the back where that dirt pile is, and we stayed there until, well, 3 weeks we stayed down at my sister's place in Bressler, and then and from there we come up into the trailer and stayed there until it was time to come in. beat the cold.
How much damage did your home suffer, Mike?
Well, they estimated it at 16,000.
Was there any time when you thought that you were going to give up, you didn't want to return?
Well, yeah, quite a few times. I mean, it was a struggle, but it's easing off now. I mean, we're getting there now, so just about all finished. Maybe another month or two, I'll have all the topsoil in here and around at the back, and a little bit of paint yet, and that'll be it. Then I can take a rest.
Is there any one thing that stands out in your mind, Mike, or any one thing you want to say?
Yeah, there's been a lot of people involved in helping us out and that, and I'd like to just thank them though. They were pretty good and nice, and I'd just like to thank them.
Trooper Edwin Grazer reflects on the aftermath of Agnes.
Did you pray much during this disaster? Every day, every step.
A natural disaster the size of the floods of Agnes is difficult to describe in terms of human involvement. The misery, property loss, heroism, and neighbor-to-neighbor helpfulness expressed by the people could be multiplied 1,000-fold, and yet not show the entire scene. There are those who do not have enough years left to recover from their losses. There are those whose treasured mementos are gone and cannot be replaced. The almost unimaginable tragedy surrounding the loss of loved ones was experienced by many people. The young Amish woman who lost her husband and baby when their buggy was washed off the road at a must take refuge in her faith and seek a deeper meaning to this mortal life.
Did you ever reach a point where you doubted God? Never. Never. Thank God. Thank God for the people, the kindness. Thank God our home's here. God granted us something more important, and that is our health, the unity that we had prior to the flood. It still exists. No. There is a God, and as far as I'm concerned, there always will be.
Searching, searching, searching for the meaning of life. I haven't found it, but I know it's out there. I've looked under the rocks of life and in the corners of my mind. I know it's in the storm clouds, in the thunder and lightning too. Searching, searching, searching for the meaning of life.
It was up to the front porch, and I know we haven't got nothing.
Where is your husband at?
He's up at the church with my daughter. She has pneumonia, but I guess the National Guards, they sent us a doctor, and they're giving her antibiotics.
Searching for the meaning of life. I know there's power above us, watching everything. Oh, it will come through this world of strife and through the darkness of the gloom. I know it's in the sunrise, in the smile on a little baby's face. Searching, searching for the meaning of life, searching for the meaning of life.
WGAL TV wishes to express appreciation to Mrs. Albert Schuler, Michael F. Pinko, and Trooper Edwin Grazer for sharing a part of their lives with us. Original music written for the Ballad of Agnes was played and sung by the Oak Ridge Boys, Nashville, Tennessee. This program was prepared and produced by the Special Events Department of WGAL TV, Lancaster, Pennsylvania.